At the edge of the Hurtgen forest before dawn, breath frosting, map trembling in a cold glove. The order is simple. Advance to the next tree line and hold. Visibility is a few meters. Mortars search the canopy. If your platoon loses contact, men die alone. The camera closes on the radio set that can keep the unit alive. SCR-300. A handset rests on the chest of the radio operator. He carries 35 pounds of hardware and hope. The squad leader checks a greased pencil grid. Net up. Explain the stakes. Patrols in the Hurtgen did not fail because of courage. They failed because units drifted and walked into kill zones. The forest swallowed runners. Leaders needed a way to correct routes in minutes, not hours. A backpack radio turned chaos into a plan. Show the setup. The antenna is sectional. The connector seats with a twist. The operator sets crystals, checks the channel list, keeps volume low. He cups the handset, presses the press-to-talk switch, and give a crisp call sign. The reply arrives thin but clear through static. Platoon, this is lead. Moving now. Over. Advance into the trees. The net carries short bursts. Halt. Adjust bearing right. Contact possible ahead. The squad freezes. The operator drops to a knee, mouth near the mic to cut wind. Range in timber is short. The radio still reaches the company net. Orders arrive. Shift left. Flank the trail. Continue. Under fire. A burst rips bark from a trunk. 2 men hit the ground. The leader needs smoke on a crossroads he cannot see. Without the radio, he would stay pinned. With it, he speaks in measured words. Grid reference. Size of target. Type of fire. Friendly positions. Mortars answer. The crossroads erupts. Movement resumes. Limits are real. Batteries fade in cold. The operator swaps packs under a poncho. Fatigue slows the man who carries it. Enemy jamming smears the net with noise. The answer is discipline. Rotate the load. Keep messages short. Practice call signs until they feel like second nature. Case study. The unit reaches a fork where patrol vanished yesterday. The leader asks for quick direction checks from 2 sections on parallel tracks. Both respond at once. Everyone knows where everyone is. The platoon crosses the danger area in 90 seconds. Yesterday, that took 15 minutes. Reflection. The Hurtgen campaign punished mistakes and rewarded contact. The SCR-300 did not win ground on its own. It gave leaders a way to turn intent into action despite trees and shock. It tied scattered teams into one moving shape. In this forest, survival followed the path of the radio wave. Final beat. Dusk settles. The operator hears an exchange, then stows the handset. Objective held. Men breathe out slowly. Casualties evacuated faster because a call found a path through branches and air. One tool did not end the war. It kept platoons alive for the next hour. In the cold and endless forests of Hurtgen, soldiers fought not only the enemy, but the silence. The trees stood thick, choking every line of sight. Orders were lost in the roar of artillery and the confusion of smoke. Men moved through mud and shattered timber, unsure where their comrades were, unsure if anyone still commanded them. And then, for the first time, a small piece of equipment began to change the shape of this chaos. It was heavy, awkward, and fragile, but it gave something priceless a voice across the battlefield. It was called the SCR-300. Before this moment, communication meant running between foxholes with messages or shouting through the wind. In Hurtgen, that was suicide. The terrain consumed runners. The Germans cut every wire. The command posts, buried under dirt and fear, were blind. But the SCR-300, strapped to the back of a radio operator, offered a link. It used a new kind of frequency modulation that pierced through static and made human speech clear, even when shells fell around. Suddenly, a platoon could talk to its company. A captain could hear his men dying or holding in real time. It was the difference between isolation and control. Each set weighed nearly 15 kilograms. The operator carried it through rain, mud, and fragments of trees torn apart by mortars. He was easy to spot, a tall antenna marking him for enemy snipers. But every unit wanted one. The men knew that without that antenna, they were alone. The radio was their heartbeat. When the voice crackled through the headset, when the call signs answered, it meant someone still lived beyond the trees. The training manuals said it could reach 3 miles in open terrain. In the Hurricane Forest, it barely managed half of that. Hills and dense trunks devoured the signal. Yet even a weak connection could mean survival. In one documented case, a company trapped near the call trail used the SCR-300 to call in artillery on German positions closing in. The fire came within minutes, saving dozens. In another, medics guided stretcher teams through fog using radio bearings. Each transmission carried risk, but without them, wounded men bled out unseen. The SCR-300 was no miracle. Its batteries drained fast, its tubes cracked under shock, and its wires froze in the cold. But it proved something vital. The American Army could coordinate men in a fluid fight, even deep in the woods. It gave commanders the chance to react faster than the Germans expected. For the first time, tactical communication was mobile. The backpack radio became a symbol of control in a place ruled by confusion. Many operators never made it home. Their gear was found beside them, wires tangled in the dirt, microphones still gripped tight. In after-action reports, officers wrote that communication was the key difference between units that survived and those that vanished. The SCR-300 was not glamorous. It did not kill. It spoke. But in a forest where silence meant death, that was power. By the end of the battle, hundreds of sets lay broken, burned, or lost in the mud. Yet their signal had carried the last words, the final calls for fire, the coordinates for evacuation. They had linked men who would never see each other again. The radio had done what the battlefield could not have made chaos speak with one voice, if only for a moment. The case comes open with a dry click, and the forest air presses in. Inside the pack, there is no mystery, only discipline. The radio is a small city of metal and glass, built for one purpose. The front panel is a map. The tuning window shows a ladder of channels from the low end of the infantry band to the high end. Each notch is 200 kilohertz apart. Each notch a promise that one platoon can reach another. Power flows first to the filaments. The vacuum tubes warm like tiny stoves. Each tube is a part of a living chain. One tube shapes the local oscillation that lets the receiver translate a distant voice down to an intermediate frequency. Another tube amplifies that intermediate heartbeat, step by steady step, until a human ear can carry it. There is no digital mercy here. Every syllable must survive glass, copper, and iron. The transmitter pads sit beside the receiver like a twin. When the handset key is pressed, the chain reverses. The microphone pressure becomes voltage. The oscillator steadies. The frequency modulation swings to carry speech, and a final amplifier pushes a fraction of a watt into the whip. It is not power that wins here. It is clarity, and clarity is protection. The set holds a crystal-driven calibrator that serves as a tuning truth. When the operator engages it, the circuit sings a known tone at precise harmonics. The dial is brought to heel against that truth. In rain, in cold, in fear, the crystal does not forget. Beside it, automatic frequency control locks small drift back to center like a hand on a shoulder guiding a tired soldier to the path. Squelch keeps the line quiet until real signal rises above the hiss. Net discipline begins with silence. The antenna sections thread together, short for movement, long for reach from a fixed nest among roots and stones. The battery feeds separate voltages to filaments and plates, and the cost is weight on a young back that is already carrying a world. In the Hurtgen, trees break sight lines and drink radio energy. The operator knows the drill. He picks a channel agreed in the morning, confirms the call sign, and keeps his body between steel and antenna so the set can see more sky. He listens for the steadiness that means the other end is real. Then he speaks once, slowly, with words that are shorter than fear. The radio does the rest. Vacuum, crystal, channel, and discipline assemble a voice that can cross the killing ground and bring a squad one step closer to survival. Channels are chosen with care. They are spaced so units can share air without tripping over one another. and the selector locks so a crawling body cannot knock the net off target. The calibrator gives 2 firm marks on the scale that the operator trusts in rain and fatigue. The forest still steals power, so teams link 2 sets as a low relay across a ridge. It is slow but certain. That certainty is why men carry this weight. The set rewards patience and exact hands under pressure. The table is cold aluminum, the light is low, and the forest outside is wet and hostile. We begin with the empty pack frame. It feels heavier than it looks, but weight is part of the truth. Place the chassis onto the frame and lock the lower clamps. Fingers check every screw head. Nothing rattles. Rattles get men hurt. Lay out the parts like a field surgeon. Antenna sections. Handset with its push-to-talk bar. Canvas straps. Power cable. Spare battery. Each piece earns its place. You will not add anything that you cannot carry under fire. The antenna matters first. Connect the base to the set and feel the threads bite. Add the next section, then the next, until the whip reaches the height the manual promised. The forest will steal range. Height gives it back. If the canopy is tight, use the shorter configuration and compensate with patience and clear speech. Tape the joints lightly so they do not glow with reflection or sing in the wind. Route the antenna lead away from sharp edges. A broken coax is a dead net. Secure it with 2 turns of cloth tape and nothing more. Too much tape traps water and ruins the day. Snap the dust caps into the pouch. If you lose one now, you will need it later and you will not have it. Set the battery. Align the pins. Press until you hear the clean click of contact. No sparks, no drama, just power flowing into the set. Seat the cover. Lock it down. Tug once. Tug twice. If it moves, fix it. If it does not move, trust it. Now the handset. The handset is your voice when your throat is dust and your nerves are a wire. Plug it into the audio jack. Thread the cord through the strain relief so it cannot yank free when you dive for earth. Clip the handset to the chest D ring where your hand can find it without your eyes. Train that motion now. You will not have time later. Fit the pack. Slide the straps over the shoulders. Cross the chest strap high. Tighten until the set sits between your shoulder blades. It must not bounce. Bouncing ruins connections and bruises ribs. Add the waist strap, snug but not choking. Check that you can drop the pack in one smooth pull. Fast is life when artillery starts to walk toward you. Power on. Dial the frequency slowly. No rush. Check side tone. Speak a test line. Your call sign, the net, the time. Listen for the reply. If the reply comes thin, adjust the antenna angle, step 3 paces left, 3 paces right. The forest is a maze of reflections. Find the pocket where your signal breathes. Finish with camouflage. Break the outline with a scarf and a net. Mud the shiny bits. Nothing flashy. Clean, quiet, disciplined. You carry the spine of the platoon. When orders must cross the ravine and the trees are full of steel, this pack decides if the message lives or dies. Net discipline begins before the first syllable leaves a throat. The squad leader kneels in wet leaves, checks his watch, and waits for the scheduled window. The forest is a maze of trunks and shattered branches, the air heavy with drizzle and splinters. A runner watches the ridge. The radio man steadies the backpack set, headset snug, handset ready. At the exact minute, the net control station calls the roll. Each station answers in turn with its assigned call sign. No names, no ranks, no chatter. Identity lives in the call sign and nowhere else. The first rule is brevity. Every word risks interception. Every extra second on the air invites triangulation. The platoon rehearses short, fixed phrases that move meaning with speed. Check-in. Acknowledge. Report strength. Report position in a grid reference, and nothing more. If the message grows beyond a sentence, it does not go. The runner or a wire line carries the rest. In this forest, a long transmission is a flare without light. The second rule is clarity. The handset rides close to the mouth. Consonants are pushed hard. Words are spoken at a calm pace, neither rushed nor slow. The operator never overlaps with a reply. He finishes, says over, and releases the press to talk switch. He listens. He writes. He does not speak again until addressed. Everyone on the net hears everything, and everyone trusts the order of turns. Call signs rotate by plan to defeat pattern study. Challenge and reply are carried on a card that never leaves the radio man's pocket. If the response stumbles or lags, the conversation ends at once. The enemy will fake an accent. The enemy will imitate a voice. The enemy cannot imitate a disciplined pause or a perfectly spoken authentication. Every hour brings a silent minute, a listening watch when no one transmits unless contact or emergency forces a break. During that minute, the net control station measures the noise floor, notes the weather effect on range, and logs stations that fail to answer the following role. A missed check-in triggers a cascade. A runner moves. A patrol pivots. Silence is a report in its own right. Brevity does not mean poverty of information. It means structured packets. Contact front, 2 machine guns, left of road, grid, followed by a single intent. Bound right. Fix. Break contact. The squad leader decides what he will do before he speaks. The radio man sends only what matters to the next decision. Under fire, the handset passes from glove to glove without ceremony. The radio man falls. Another hand continues the message without a change in tone. The form is the shield. The form carries the voice of the unit when fear tries to break it. Net discipline turns a forest of isolated men into one organism that can feel, decide, and strike as a single will. In the Hurtgen, that difference is survival. The forest takes the voice first. Pines lock overhead, needles drink the rain, and every drop becomes a curtain between radios. The man with the SCR-300 leans into the slope, canvas pack biting his shoulders, whip antenna tugging at branches. He presses transmit. The reply stumbles back thin, chewed by hills, broken by the black ribs of the Hurtgen. Line of sight is the rule here, and the forest breaks that law with every rise and fold. VHF wants a clear path. Ridge lines bend the signal. Ravines swallow it. In the open, this set can carry across fields and roads. In these trees, range shrinks to pockets. Move 10 steps and the net sounds clean. Move 10 more and voices fall into static. He climbs to a stump where the canopy thins. The net brightens. Orders reach him. Hold for artillery. Shift left by the creek. He repeats them to the squad below, each word clipped, each pause counted. Discipline protects the message when physics does not. Confirmation by number. Rain thickens. Water coats the set. The antenna shakes with each gust, and the signal swings with it. Fading arrives in waves. When the wind drops, the path clears. When the trees sway, wet bark scatters energy and the net grows thin. He waits half a breath, transmits in the lull, and tilts the antenna away from trunks that steal strength. He tries height. A fallen oak offers 2 meters more. The net comes in stronger, a hard edge under the hiss. Relay point. If the platoon drifts into the next draw, they will climb to this dead tree and call through. Distance is not measured in meters alone. It is measured in trees per meter, in rain per minute, in the angles of a valley that refuse to carry signal. A runner arrives with a damp message from company. The radio heard only a blur. The man heard the rest. Together they make one intact order. This is how a platoon survives here. Radio, runner, hand signal, and habit, each covering the others when the forest takes its share. The operator scans the net, turns the knob a hair left, a hair right, hunting the cleanest edge. Dusk compresses the woods. The set grows heavier as the battery cools. He counts transmissions and saves power for contact. The squad spreads in a staggered file. He takes the second position, close enough to pull the antenna clear, far enough to avoid masking the rifleman behind him. Ahead, machine gun fire cracks and lifts. The squad halts. He kneels, tilts the antenna, and calls. The net answers through grainy static, enough to pass a grid and a short report. Contact. Distance. Direction. The reply is short. Hold. Artillery inbound. He passes it down the line. The forest will never make this easy. With height, patience, and discipline, the set can punch windows through the trees. In a battle decided by minutes and meters, those moments of clear voice are the difference between a platoon lost in a maze and a platoon that moves, holds, and survives the night. The forest swallows sound and light. Dawn is a gray smear as a platoon moves single file through wet leaves. The radio man adjusts the pack, grinding his shoulders. Steel, canvas, and battery weight press his spine. If the handset dies, the platoon becomes an island. It is the difference between support and silence. The day begins with a checklist. Battery seated. Leads tight. Meter test. He thinks in hours, not miles. A fresh pack grants a window of transmission, but terrain taxes every minute. The squad leader calls for a net check. He answers, and the column moves. Each minute of battery life must be earned with discipline. Fatigue turns weight into a threat. Boots sink in mud. Straps bite the collarbone. Rests are time to conserve strength and power. The temptation is to keep the set live for comfort, to know higher is there. The rule is harsher. Stay on schedule. Receive on time. Transmit only when needed. Every unnecessary word burns the future. Contact comes suddenly. A branch snaps. The point man drops. The woods erupt with fragments. He slides into a scrape, pack first to shield the set. Heart pounding, he runs the drill. Antenna up but masked. Dial confirm. Net call. Fire mission. Words are clipped, syllables punched against blasts. The battery needle dips and steadies. Exhaustion arrives quietly. Dry rations taste like cardboard. At the halt, he checks the pack for heat. Cold saps capacity. He shelters the set when rain drills through the trees, then vents it when the air turns dry. He has become a caretaker of a fragile flame. Resupply is a gamble. Batteries arrive wrapped and heavy. Carry too few, and the net will go dark mid-fight. Carry too many, and the man with the radio cannot keep up. The platoon shares the load until shells fall and hands get busy with rifles. In that moment, he is alone under the extra weight, counting minutes with his pulse. Night does not forgive mistakes. He keeps the handset close, whispering with the softest voice that still carries. He trims transmissions to facts. Location, status, ammunition, casualties. The battery gauge is now a clock ticking in reverse. Fatigue slurs thought. Procedure keeps it clean. By dawn, the pack feels twice its weight. He cycles power long enough to pull orders, then kills it to bank minutes for the next crisis. The platoon inches forward. When a machine gun opens from a hidden nest, he is already flat, already dialing, already transmitting. The gun goes silent under mortar fire called through a signal that exists only because a battery survived the night. At last, the platoon reaches a churned field cut by shell holes. He kneels, easing the pack off like setting down a body. He changes the battery with numb hands and tags the spent one for return. The fight will start again soon, and the line will hold because the pack lives. Power, weight, and fatigue never stop arguing. He balances them, minute by minute, until the mission is done. The mission continues, the set endures. The forest compresses sound into a dull roar. Splinters rain from the firs. The platoon is spread along a shallow trench, and the radio man kneels in the mud with the SCR-300 tight against his chest. He breathes once to steady his voice. Clarity is survival. He checks the handset cord, cups the mic to block the wind, and begins with the ritual that cuts through chaos. Call signs first. Unit, this is unit, send. He pauses a full heartbeat, because overlap kills messages. He speaks from the diaphragm, not the throat, in short phrases that carry. He keeps the pace measured. He uses pro words that turn sentences into tools. Over invites a reply. Out ends the exchange. Wait holds the net. Say again requests a repeat. He speaks as if he is carving channels in the noise. Rifle fire swells. Someone shouts. He does not raise his volume to a shout. Shouting distorts. He compresses meaning. Contact front at 50. 2 machine guns. He adds location and time. Grid 6-2, 2 minutes ago. He adds intent. Suppressing and flanking left. Over. Each phrase is a brick. Together they build a picture. Static bites the line. He confirms reception. I read you 3. Weak, readable. He shifts the antenna to a higher angle, away from the wet trunk, and plants a boot to anchor his stance. He breathes again. The reply comes thin but usable. Acknowledge. Fire mission approved. Smoke on the left draw. The word acknowledge matters. It prevents the fatal guess. A runner slides in the mud and begs for faster talk. The radio man holds up a palm. Net discipline is not a luxury. It is the only way 24 men avoid stepping into the same kill zone. He tags every transmission with where, what, and what next. He avoids filler words. He avoids emotion on the line. Emotion belongs in the eyes, not in the handset. Burst fire rattles the trees. He hears a word fragment, then nothing. He uses read back to lock the order. Fire mission, 3 tubes, smoke. Left draw, 2 rounds, repeat. Over. The correction comes back clean. He confirms. Wilco, out. He writes the essentials in a grease pencil on a wet card and hands it to the squad leader, because memory fails when adrenaline surges. Fragments whip the air. The antenna flicks. He shifts position and warns the net. Breaking squelch, moving 10 meters, wait. He moves. He returns. Back on net. He tests with a short check. Radio check, this is unit. Over. The answer lands. Read you 5. Good. He continues. He spells the call sign of a new unit with the phonetic alphabet, word by word, because a single letter wrong can redirect fire onto friends. The smoke starts to build. The assault begins. He keeps the net open for corrections, but never floods it. He says only what changes decisions. Enemy gun down. Second gun moving. Hold smoke for 30. Over. The reply is swift. Hold confirmed. Out. When the ridge is finally taken, the radio man finally exhales. His throat is raw, not from volume, but from precision under pressure. The lesson is plain. In a forest that eats voices and lives, procedure is not bureaucracy. It is armor made of words, and it keeps a platoon alive. Rain needles the pines, and the fog hangs low over the call trail. The ground is a churned ribbon of mud and roots, scarred by shell bursts that still bleed smoke. A lead platoon edges forward, rifles up, eyes flicking to the tree line. On the radio man's back, the SCR-300 breathes with a faint hum. The rubber handset rests against a wool glove, the wire coiled like a lifeline. The order is simple on paper. Push to the bridge. Hold the crossing. In this forest, nothing is simple. The platoon leader halts at a bend where the trail narrows above a ravine. He kneels, maps out, compass steady, and signals the radio man. The net crackles. Call signs. Authentication. The voice of company comes through thin and hollow, stretched by distance and trees. The leader repeats the task, confirms checkpoints, requests artillery registration on a suspected machine gun nest. The handset passes to the forward observer. Numbers flow. Grid. Direction. Chief. The SCR-300 carries it all, shaping a plan in real time. Contact erupts without warning. A burst of fire rakes the point squad. The forest answers with shouting and splinters. The leader drops behind a stump, preps a smoke grenade, and points to the radio man. Net discipline holds even as men press into the earth. The handset stays low. The voice is steady. Contact front. 2 machine guns. Possible mortar. Request fire mission. Smoke pops and curls wide across the trail, a thin veil between life and open killing ground. Interference rides in with the wind. Static swells. The valley walls reflect the signal, and the net becomes a chorus of echoes. The radio man adjusts the antenna angle, shifts 2 steps downslope, and the noise thins. Batteries are running hot from constant transmit and receive. He swaps to the spare pack, checks the connectors with numb fingers, and nods. The leader relays a correction to the observer. Artillery walks in from the tree line and crawls toward the nest. Each correction is a lifeline carried by the SCR-300 through rain, steel, and fear. A runner stumbles in from the rear. Another platoon has drifted off the trail. The map line and the ground do not agree. The net carries conflicting reports. A squad claims the bridge is in sight. Another insists they are still a kilometer short. The fog has turned the forest into mirrors. The leader forces a reset. He orders a time hack across the net. Watches synchronize. He directs each element to a named terrain feature. Creek bend. Fallen beach. Switchback. The net clears as locations become real again. A mortar drops close and the radio man folds over the set. He is up a second later, stunned but moving. The handset is muddy. The frequency is still good. The leader wants a smoke screen on the far bank and a short lift to cover assault. The net carries the plan to every ear that matters. Squad leaders echo it back. Grenades up. Smoke now. Assault across. The barrage blooms. The platoon moves, low and fast, each man inside a tunnel of sound. The SCR-300 rides with them, a heartbeat that does not stop. On the bridge, timbers slick with rain. The handset barks a single word. Lift. The fire shifts. The last 20 meters are a sprint through wet air. They clear the nest and dig in, lungs burning, hands shaking. The net softens. Reports are clean. Ammunition counts. Casualty lists. The leader exhales fog and looks at the radio man. Without that set, there would have been only runners, guesswork, and silence. With it, there was direction. Orders met contact. Contact fed corrections. Confusion narrowed to a point, and the platoon reached it. Rain needles the canopy, and the net crackles. The operator braces the SCR-300 against his chest, hand set to a mask streaked with grit. The radio is both lifeline and liability. German sets pulse a tone across the band, a rising and falling howl that chokes syllables. Each call sign takes longer. Every word must be spelled out, and seconds matter because the tree hides movement and the ravine funnels fire. Moisture soaks the felt pad, detuning the antenna. Leaves loaded with water sap range. The signal bounces from slick rock and fades in the trees. Static rolls in sheets when lightning crawls over the ridge. The operator shifts to an alternate frequency, then back to net discipline. Speak slowly. Pause. Acknowledge. He nudges the tuning dial until the hiss thins. Clarity returns for a heartbeat, enough to pass a grid and request smoke on the far slope. The weather cuts more than the signal. Cold drains the BA-70 pack, thick mud clutches boots, and the set weighs like another man when the slope turns to slurry. A slip in the clay drives the antenna into a stump, bending the whip and killing a bar of range. The section halts, pulls security, swaps batteries. The enemy listens. Silence periods are observed. Then the howl returns, a jammer mimicking speech patterns to beta reply. Procedure keeps the line alive. Authentication cards. Time checks. Alternate nets on the half hour. If the net fails, a runner moves with a written message sealed in a plastic sleeve. A field phone hums behind, strung along roots and blasted trunks, ready to take the load when the backpack set cannot punch through the weather. A burst arrives garbled and deadly. Danger close. Check fire. The operator repeats the message twice, then 3 times, until the correction is confirmed. White smoke blooms where it should, and the platoon pulls forward 10 meters instead of being caught under its own mortars. Night falls under the pines. The radio never fully quiets. The enemy tries a wideband sweep that flattens the net. The operator lifts the antenna with a pole cut from wood, climbs 1 step up the slope, and gains height to leap the ravine with the signal. The reply is faint but firm. Mission received. Hold for first light. The lesson is not elegant. The set is not magic. Weather, ground, and a patient enemy can strangle any voice. Discipline, backups, and small adaptations keep that voice alive long enough to decide a fight. Field manuals set the tone. Establish net at H-30. Verify call signs. Keep messages short. Maintain radio silence unless contact is imminent. They promise miles of range across open fields and a clear channel when procedures are crisp. The page is clean and predictable. Now place the SCR-300 at the tree line of the Hurtgen. For trunks, choke the air. Rain knocks through the canopy. The set rides on a tired back, straps cutting into a wet coat. The manual expects a 3-minute check-in. The platoon leader expects contact in 30 seconds. Only one is relevant in the foxhole. Net discipline says wait your turn. Reality says speak before the next barrage. A runner kneels to relay what the fading signal will not carry. The book favors full voice and perfect phonetics. The forest forces a whisper. Words fall into static and are rebuilt by habit and guesswork. The manual teaches authentication, challenge, and reply. In the trees, the operator weighs seconds. Use the entire sequence and risk losing the window. Skip a step and risk a friendly barrage landing short. The manual prescribes antenna height and angle. The trees steal line of sight and soak the wire. The operator improvises with a higher branch, a broken sapling, a length of field phone wire, anything to push a few hundred more yards through the wall of trees. In the foxhole, the battery is a cold brick that dies with every hour of rain. Contacts corrode. Connectors clog with grit. The book says rotate relays to extend coverage. The ground says movement draws fire. Yet the manual is not the enemy. It is the baseline that keeps panic from replacing method. Call signs matter when voices crack. Brevity keeps chaos legible. The SCR-300 was never magic. It was a lifeline that worked when a trained operator bent rules without breaking fundamentals. Manuals versus foxholes is not a fight. It is a negotiation under fire, paid in seconds, settled by whoever can make voice carry when it matters most under fire. We open on a ridge of broken trees and churned earth. Sleep strikes the lens. A platoon fights for breath as the forest swallows sound. The lieutenant kneels behind a stump and steadies an SCR-300 on a tired back. The handset clicks. Static claws at the ear. Then a voice cuts through noise. Situation report. Contact left. We hold 60 seconds. The set weighs like a second man, yet it stitches scattered foxholes into a single will. In the Hurtgen, the map meant little. Sight lines died after 20 meters. Wire lines snapped under shellfire. Runners vanished into ravines. The radio was not a luxury. It was a lifeline timed in heartbeats. After-action reports speak a hard language. They count minutes when orders arrive to break an ambush. They list attacks that failed when nets collapsed. One company records a morning as fog-blocked signal posts. The assault drifted off axis. 2 squads walked into a machine gun cone. When operators re-established contact, artillery shifted 100 meters. The fire lane closed. Survivors crawled out. Range was rarely textbook. Hills soaked power. Tree trunks soaked it too. Operators learned to lift the antenna and step into open for clear transmission. Some did not come back. Others used relays. Squad to platoon. Platoon to company. The hopscotch of survival. Jamming appeared, but nature was the worst enemy. Rain warped reception. Mud killed batteries. Handsets froze to gloves. Discipline saved seconds. Call signs. Brevity words. Clean handover at the edge of panic. You hear it in transcripts. A breath. A phrase. Then teams move like a hinge. The verdict from reports is blunt. Radios did not win ground by themselves. They made coordination possible in a maze of splinters and smoke. They cut friendly fire. They pulled casualties out before shock closed that window. They turned isolated fights into a company effort. That is how platoons lived to try again the next day. Not by magic, by contact that held under pressure.